Auckland's Level 3 lockdown has put the skids on the North-South inter-island rugby match for at least another week. The game was supposed to be played at Auckland's Eden Park on Saturday week, but New Zealand Rugby made contingency plans to shift it to Wellington when Auckland went into Alert Level 3. But Plan B was scuppered too when 14 Auckland-based players were denied travel exemptions because of the Covid-19 lockdown. New Zealand Rugby's General Manager of Professional Rugby, Lendrum, is philosophical about the setback as they become used to living week to week.
Look, we're frustrated only to the extent that we can't play the game when we wanted to play it. We were really hopeful of getting this fixture up for our fans and for our players and coaches and so forth Saturday week, and now we can't. But we're not frustrated about the decision. We've worked really closely with the government all the way through the COVID period, and we'll respect their decision and abide by it.
Yeah, can you just talk us through that decision? You applied for some exemptions. They were denied. Why was that?
Look, Lisa, our understanding of the exemption process, and to be fair, we've been learning as the week's gone on, is that exemptions are very limited and there's a very high threshold to them being granted. Essentially, threat to life, limb, very high threshold for business exemptions and the like. And unfortunately, our case just didn't meet that on this occasion.
Did you have any conversations with ministers, like the Minister for Sport?
Look, we submitted our application through the normal processes, just like any other business or individual would. But as you'd imagine, for a sport and organisation our size, we have contacts at ministerial level, both directly and through Sport New Zealand. So we had those discussions during the week, but the position was always very clear and consistent from the government. We received notification of the exemption being declined late yesterday.
So, OK, you've got to postpone. What are the challenges involved in that then?
Well, look, it's been a year of challenges, right? And so the staff and people involved are very used to changing plans on the fly. It's not easy. I'm not going to lie about that. But a lot now turns on the government's decisions around alert levels in the coming days next week. That'll determine two things, whether we can play in Auckland or whether we can play in Wellington, or I suppose ultimately whether we can play at all. And also, if we can play, whether those games will go ahead with crowds or without.
Yeah, so you've got to kind of plan and have contingencies. So what's your best scenario at the moment? Are you working on playing the game in Auckland or are you working on playing the game in Wellington?
Yeah, look, the best scenario will be to play the game in Auckland in front of a crowd. If Auckland can return to level 1 in time for the game on the 5th, we obviously simply don't know whether that's going to be possible. It's not in our control, nor is it our area of expertise, so we'll trust and work with the government, and if we can't play it in Auckland, then we'll happily play it in Wellington, and more so if we can get a crowd there.
How late can you leave that decision?
Well, we were leaving a decision in respect of next week as late as today, so the key thing is we need to assemble our players and management and other staff required to run the game on a Monday, prior to a game going ahead on the Saturday. So if we're looking at the 5th as the date now, you work back and it's essentially we'd need to know in a couple of days before the Monday prior.
So obviously if where you want to play is in level 2, that's not a goer because you can only have up to 100 people. You're not keen on playing without a crowd? No, look, we would consider playing without a crowd, absolutely. I think this is a game that has the rugby public really excited. We want to play it as a reward for the players that performed so well during Investec Super Rugby Aotearoa and for our fans. And whilst it would not be ideal to play it essentially behind closed doors, there would still be an enormous broadcast audience for that game, and we'd be looking to make it happen. Clearly not our preference, but a plan B. I know things have been tough for the entire year. Financially, do you really, would your preference be to be able to have a crowd? Clearly if we can ticket the match, then that will provide additional revenue into the organisation, which in turn we can use to fund our expenditure at community and professional level. So, yeah, it would be fantastic if we could do that. It would be fantastic, likewise, if we can get further All Black and national team fixtures happening in the latter part of the year. But it is a challenging year, and we just don't know. It's very much a day-to-day or week-to-week existence for us at the moment. And the people who are working in these areas day after day are just doing an outstanding job responding to the adversity and the uncertainty.
Chris, given all of the uncertainty that you have faced and are facing because of this pandemic, how realistic is it to even entertain the idea of a Trans-Tasman competition next year?
Oh, it's a good question, Lisa. Look, that's a very fair question as well, because, we're essentially looking back now 5 months from the point where we first locked down as a country, and I think we would all hope that we were a little bit further along than we have been, in spite of the fantastic job that New Zealanders have done. And it does have an impact on us. We're going to have to consider that over the coming weeks in terms of the ongoing impact on our planning, and when we need to deliver certainty for our players and clubs and so forth. So we continue to monitor that, and we'll have more for everyone on that on those points in the future.
Realistically, though, is it actually going to happen? I mean, you're watching what's going on in Australia, even what's going on here in recent days.
Yeah, look, you would have to say there's an increasing level of doubt if you're thinking about starting a Trans-Tasman competition in late February or early March, but there is still an amount of time to go, and we don't have to make those decisions right now. I think that's the key point. We clearly will have to make them soon to allow commercial partners and clubs, season ticket holders and so forth to start making some plans with certainty. But we'll just keep monitoring it and working closely with government as we have done, and we'll make the decision when we need to.
And that's Chris Lendrum from New Zealand Rugby.